Welcome back to Just Chattin', and this is the series of videos we do on Thursday and Sunday evenings just for our own amusement. So, today we are going to talk about Nutmeg's bullying accusations. Now, just to clarify, these are not the accusations Nutmeg makes about all the evil people bullying her. These are the accusations made by members of her staff when she was acting in her role of Princess of the May back in the UK. And many of her employees alleged that her behavior was atrocious. The word atrocious was actually used. So we are going to talk about that when we come back. So, Nutmeg bullying the staff. Old news, you say. Well, that's what I thought. But in the last few days, the mainstream media has really started picking up on this. And check the list of sources I have in the video notes. It's everything from UK tabloids to Newsweek in the US. So it's really getting out there all at once and right now. The thing that I find interesting is what they seem to be latching on to are the statements made by Nutmeg's attorney. And this is a Jenny Afia. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, so I'm just going to stick with Jenny. And in particular, they're focusing on statements she gave in the BBC documentary, I should put that in air quotes, Princes and the Press, because quite frankly, I have no idea what Nutmeg's public relations attorney is doing making statements in a documentary that is supposedly about Harry and William and their relationship with the press, when in fact what she's talking about is Nutmeg's former staff and the investigation that's going on because of the bullying complaints. So I gotta say, I find that a stretch. How did we shoehorn this into a documentary about William and Harry and the media? No. Anyway, I thought we would take a look at this because what's interesting, and nobody is picking up on this aspect of it, and I don't understand why, because these are not stupid people. And Nutmeg's defense against these allegations is right there in the open. Jenny is redefining bullying for us. So, we all know what bullying is. Bullying is threats, coercion by a person with superior power or a person who is perceived to have superior power, and it is directed against someone who is either vulnerable or perceived to be vulnerable. It's pretty straightforward, right? We know what a bully is. Well, Miss Jenny has decided, and she actually gave this, I'm going to read this because this is her definition. Improperly using power repeatedly and deliberately to hurt someone physically or emotionally. She also said that her little girl accused her of bullying when she told the little girl to go brush her teeth. Now, that, we can all see what that is. She is attempting to reduce accusations of bullying down to their most trivial form. You know, the sort of backsass a 7-year-old will give you when you say, go brush your teeth, honey. You're a bully. I'm going to tell on you. No, bullying is real. It is not about 7-year-olds who don't want to brush their teeth. And saying something like that significantly diminishes the harm that's done by bullying in society. After that, by the way, she said that Nutmeg didn't want to negate anybody's feelings. It's like, oh, okay. Well, that's good. Here's the problem. Her definition of bullying is that the bully must engage in their behavior repeatedly, which eliminates any one-off behaviors, and they must do it deliberately. They have to know they're bullying. So let me ask you, is that always the case? You know it's not, and I know it's not. Apparently, Jenny does not. No one goes through life wielding a baseball bat at strangers. That's a good way to end up in jail. If people behaved constantly as bullies, they would have no friends, they would have no job, they would have nowhere to live, their family would disown them, and they would end up in jail and dead. And I don't say that lightly. There was a boy in my high school, very sad story, because I didn't know him. I knew who he was because he was very in your face with his attitude, but people that I knew who knew him when he was younger said that he and his siblings went to school with bruises and black eyes, and one day, I think it was his sister, turned up with her arm in a cast. These children were brutalized at home, and it's hard not to feel sorry for them. Did he deliberately bully? No, of course not. His behavior was not designed to torment others. It was designed to keep himself from getting hit. Come on. What happened to him, of course, is he was in jail by the time he was 20, and he was dead by the time he was 30. I'm sure he was not mourned by many because he really did have a very bad attitude. But that is what happens to people who go through every day of their lives attempting to bully everyone around them. Sad but true. So, does bullying need to be repeated? No. You can be bullied one time and you're still being bullied. Does it have to be deliberate? Not necessarily. I think we would all like to believe bullying is deliberate, but does it have to be? No, of course not. And let's face it, how can you even prove that someone is deliberately bullying, that they woke up that morning and said, boy, I'm going to go bully someone today? I think Miss Jenny is attempting to give Nutmeg outs. This seems to be a defense she's already structuring. Well, she didn't repeatedly bully them. She only bullied them once. Or she bullied that person only twice. That's hardly repeated. Well, she did it accidentally. She didn't mean to. It wasn't her intention. Remember that letter she sent to the courts apologizing for having misled them? It wasn't her intention. She didn't mean it. So I think this is what we're seeing here. I think we are seeing the Nutmeg defense. Well, if it only happened once, it doesn't count. Well, if I didn't mean to do it, it doesn't count. And then, of course, we have the other one, which was the, let me see, I wrote that one down too. Yes, Harry's statement that Nutmeg has been the target of bullying herself because, in fact, Harry and Nutmeg define any negative commentary in social media as bullying. So on the one hand, they have their own wildly liberal definition of bullying when it comes to throwing that accusation at others. But when it comes to throwing the accusation at Nutmeg, oh no, you have to be specific. It has to be threats of violence. It has to be intended to hurt emotionally. Come on. It's really a classic case of this double standard they bring to everything in their lives. When I do it, it's fine. When you do it, it's rotten. And this is just beautiful. Um, when I was researching this, I also came across a really interesting explanation by Christopher Anderson. He's the one who wrote Brothers and Wives. That's the book about William and Harry and Catherine and Nutmeg. And he says, based on Lord only knows what, that Meghan's bullying was really just a culture clash, that she was American, and that looked like bullying to the British. Wow. First of all, that is totally slamming all of America. And it just feeds into all the stereotypes of the brash and pushy American and all of the stereotypes of, the meek and submissive Brit. They're just so polite, and you can just, throw a beer at them and they're not even going to look at you. It's like, oh, I'm sorry I got in your way. No, we're not Wahoo cowboys, and the Brits are not Casper milk toasts. That's just, it's so ridiculous. I have to wonder how it even got in print. No, this is not a question of Nutmeg's California style conflicted with the British. As I say, I don't even know why that would have been suggested, because it's not something that makes any real sense. And of course, it feeds into some of the basest cultural stereotypes out there. So, thank you for your input, Christopher. I don't think we're going to be giving it much serious consideration. He also seems to have this strange idea that the men in gray, and this is what Diana took to calling the palace courtiers toward the end of her life, and we have discussed this before. She was becoming quite paranoid. Not her fault. Frankly, there were a lot of people who were fueling her paranoia for a lot of reasons, but she was convinced that they had killed her former bodyguard. We talked about that in a previous video. She thought they were going to try to kill her. Unfortunately, she had become paranoid. Do Queen Elizabeth's courtiers run around attempting to kill people? I very much doubt it. The fact is, the British have government agencies for that sort of thing, if that's what they want to do. They don't leave it in the hands of the white-gloved paper pushers of Buckingham Palace. So, I think his rationale is flawed on a lot of levels, but he certainly does say that the men in gray were plotting against Nutmeg. I'm sure Nutmeg and Harry are very delighted with that interpretation, and in fact, I kind of wonder if they weren't feeding him information the same way they were feeding information to Omid Scobie, because it certainly does look like he's printed up a lot of their fantasies in his book. Who knows? We'll have to see how that one plays out. But regardless, what's happening with our bully accusations now is they are hitting the mainstream media. In a way, that is good, because the investigation seems to have been rolling along, and then it looks like it might have gotten sidetracked. Then, with this new impetus, a lot of light shined on it, it seems to be moving forward again. That, of course, would be utterly delightful. So, in other bits of nutmeg news, and there is always nutmeg news out there, it does seem that Nutmeg and Ginger are planning to sell their Montecito house. It's at first it started off as some unsubstantiated rumors, and it was sort of hard to track that all down. But it seems to be gaining traction. Usually, when a rumor is blatantly false, it'll go out there and it'll die back down again. One like this, no, it does seem to be, well, as I say, gaining traction. So it's starting to look like, yes, they may be selling the house in Montecito. It has got to be enormously expensive to keep up. Oh, and if you want to take a look at that, let me just quickly refer you over, and I don't usually do this, but we're going to do this. Keep NYC Mega Trash free. Because I love her research, frankly, so I'm going to kick you over to her. She did some really good research on this, and I do think there's something to it. The expenses of maintaining a house, the size of the house they are maintaining, has got to be enormous. We are almost certainly talking about something that is well in excess of $1 million a year. And if you are in California and if you are Nutmeg, then of course you really have to keep your property, up to the nines, just to make sure everybody knows who you are and what you're doing and how well you're living and la la la. It's all about the public show. And a piece of property like that is, in fact, just a huge drain on your finances just to keep the lawns maintained. Oh, and I did see a story this morning saying that they are limiting the water usage in California again. By the way, they do that often. That is not something that's just occasional. Those of us in the U.S. are very much aware of this because we see it on the news. Even if we're in New England, we see when California goes into these periods where they have to restrict water usage because frankly, it's scarce out there. So I know that those of you in the UK and Australia and other parts of the world probably are not aware of this. The way they have developed California is not conducive to the environment. Most of Southern California is borderline desert and should probably be maintained with xeriscaping, which is a desert type of landscaping. But no, they want the lush New York lawns, and they'll want the 4 or 5 story houses of New England. It's interesting. They do not adapt their lifestyle to where they are living. Now, some people do, and I have to say, I've seen that done. When it's done well, it's gorgeous. It really is. But no, I've seen aerial views of the Montecito mansion, and I cringe to think how much of a dent in California's limited water supply we are talking when it comes to maintaining those lawns. So, what's the deal on California? Looks like they might not be staying in that particular house after all. I have, however, heard nothing, and I need to make this really clear. I have heard nothing about plans to move to New York. That seems to be all rumors. So, take a deep breath, New Yorkers. It looks like you've dodged a bullet, at least so far.
How about New York?
Well, there are certain sections of New York, Major, that I wouldn't advise you to try to invade.
And I'm thinking that Nutmeg and Harry have probably dodged a bullet too, because I just don't see New Yorkers putting up with their nonsense. That's just not the way New Yorkers are wired. All right, so that is what I have for you. It's a little shorter than usual, this video. My apologies on that. it is what it is. Please go over, check out the SueMe's Angels. I always get that wrong. Facebook page, because the giveaways are still going on, and we want to try to make sure as many of you as possible have an opportunity to get some holiday cheer. I know the holidays are over, but we're going to do this, and we're going to keep doing this until all of the holiday gifts are gone. And we are going to have a little slideshow on our way out. I hope to see you all Thursday evening. We will be doing our Just Chatting series, and then over the weekend, we're going right back into thrifting again. All right, have a terrific day.